Hi everyone, I'm Hannah and I work up in Liverpool in the Community Continence Service. So I am just going to give you a little bit of an overview on what we've done in our service to reduce catheter-associated UTI. So NHS England data shows us that the most frequent reason for hospital admissions is UTI, and over half of these are related to catheters. So it's no surprise that people with long-term catheters are at more risk of acquiring infections. So just a bit of background on our project, which was harm-free care, and I don't know if you are familiar with this term, but it was basically to look at different patient safety initiatives aimed at ensuring patients are obviously kept safe and free from harm in our care. Came in around the safety thermometer tool, for those of you that are familiar with that. Well, we decided to take this one step further and create our own harm-free care group. So prior to 2013, our trust, Liverpool Community Health, had no evidence of the rate of catheter-associated UTI in the community. So, initially back in 2013, when we created our group, which consisted of ourselves in the continence service, infection control team, community pharmacy, community matrons, district nurses from across the city, we asked all our staff in the community to incident report via our DATIC system any incidences of patients who they felt had, they diagnosed had catheter-associated urinary tract infection. What happened as a result of asking this to be incident reported is that we then had a huge increase in the reporting of these, but actually it wasn't that accurate, the data, and we found that the majority of the incidents coming through were actually based on dipstick testing, which, as we know, is not evidence-based. Also on top of this, there was a lack of clarity around the processes involved in reporting, but also how to manage and treat catheter UTI. But also within the community, we've had an increase in complex patients now at home requiring catheter care, and also a high turnover of community nurses. So we had quite a new intake of new nurses without previous experiences at all in some cases, so they found it difficult combined with the complex patients. So what did we do? Initially we did an audit of the original information that was coming through, and that was originally started at April 15 to March 16, and then we did a re-audit after our awareness campaign, essentially, April 16 to March 17. So the three main work areas were that we reviewed the current local and national definitions, as the feedback we had were it was quite complicated, it wasn't simple, people just didn't understand it. And essentially we created an awareness campaign to enable staff in the community to identify, manage and treat. And then we also looked at our current reporting processes through the DATIC system and created a new template to do this. So some of the things that we did a joint working collaborative group with our infection control team where we looked at the most recent definitions, NICE, SIGN, some of the others that we used to establish the correct criteria to diagnose, and then in combination with our PAM-MERSI antimicrobial recommendations for treatment. We then did a huge awareness campaign, so we created a poster. We developed this in collaboration with our group, and it was distributed to all our district nurses, community matrons, essentially any community staff in the trust looking after patients with catheters, and then across our GPs in Liverpool and South Sefton at the time, which is around 123 practices. And this was done in an electronic ways, it was done at launch events, it was done at promotional events, some of it was done face-to-face meetings. Any way we could, we promoted, and we sent this poster to everyone. Then within our service, we had an identified specialist nurse from our team to work within each locality within Liverpool. And they went out and they delivered specialist education around catheter UTIs to our district nurses, but also in combination with the patients in their area, specific to different areas of the city, and obviously the more complex catheter patients that we supported. They now will hot desk across the city if they're needed by their district nurses as a way of sort of face-to-face support. And also our service deliver a trust-wide competency-based catheter workshop. So anybody that is looking after patients with catheters, new to the trust or even a refresher of practice, come onto our courses and then they are signed off as competent. And then last of all, we did our reporting templates. So initially when we'd asked our staff to incident report any incidences, we felt that we left it too open and things were able to be bypassed. So we amended the template to ensure that the criteria for the diagnosis was available in drop-down boxes and that there were also mandatory fields, so you couldn't bypass the important information. And then we also devised an RCA incident template, so anything that was confirmed, any incident that was reported was came to the continent service, and then either myself or one of the team would review and validate the data, confirm if it was true or not accord with the definition, and then we would meet up in a trust harm-free care meeting, really, which is all the incident reports of the week, as it were. So the template then allowed us to review the patient management from when the catheter had been inserted, to look at why the catheter was in, what had led to the infections, and really deem whether it was avoidable or unavoidable. Along with this, we also developed a catheter care bundle as well that goes in all our trust notes, and we also have a catheter passport which is rolled out really across all our neighbouring trusts within the Northwest as well. So we'd be asking all those questions. So, you know, was there a passport in place? Was the bundle used correctly? Was the criteria adhered to? So anything that came off the back of the review of any confirmed catheter-associated UTIs, our nurses would then follow up with specialist education sessions, and obviously it wasn't just about things that could have been done better, it was also about sharing good practice across the trust. So the outcome, the overall number of incidents reported between 15 and 16 and 16-17 reduced by 54%, so that was the volume coming through as reported. And then consequently, the number of confirmed CAUTI between 15-16 and 16-17 reduced by 78% with our awareness campaign and education. So overall, we reduced the number of patients acquiring infections associated with catheters in our care. Our staff reported a better awareness and are more confident to report instances accurately, as well as treat patients safely and correctly. We also established an MDT with our neighbouring trusts, our urology consultants and our specialist nurses in the hospitals, which we attend bi-monthly. And this is really, we take complex catheter patients there, or they share their complex catheter patients coming out into community. We encourage our district nurses to bring patients they may be looking after in the community. And it really, it's prevented hospital admissions, and obviously it promotes safe, effective care, and obviously the patients feel much more confident at home. The district nurses feel much more confident to treat the patients and to look after their catheters. But also it did raise bigger questions around catheter care, and so more staff looked at why catheters were in, you know, and also they started to question really as well the reasons for the catheterisation. So we actually saw an increase within our service last year for trials without catheters, which is also great because that's essentially what we want. So really future progress for the group is that it continues to meet now on a monthly basis. We continue to validate all incidences of catheter UTIs logged by our staff. We actually open this up wider now, so we actually, any catheter related incident to do with equipment, to do with discharge, to do with passport. So if patients were being discharged from the hospitals without a catheter passport, it's actually rejected. We don't accept that because that's, it's a best practice guide. But also we continue to audit this annual, and we look at trends and themes across our trust, within our MDT, and obviously with our commissioners. We've also extended to other awareness campaigns, so we looked at blocked catheter pathways, and we've sort of improved our pathways to support staff further, because also we realised that as well as catheter UTIs, there was a high proportion of blocked catheters within the community, and staff tended to try and maybe admit or, we're really struggling on how to manage these patients. So a simple kind of pathway has actually given them further support in managing these. Ultimately, we would like to work with our commissioners to develop a live patient register to establish just how many patients in the community have a catheter, which is something that we don't have at the moment, but that's obviously what we would strive to achieve. And that is our poster. That's everything.